We are solving shootings and robberies within the real-time crime center within 15 or 20 minutes using this technology. We have worked in over 100 missing person cases this year and have affected them in some shape or form right here in the real-time crime center. It doesn't work without connectivity. Dejero opens that door up where I didn't have that option before.
Hello, I'm Evie Cuervo. Welcome to Critical Connections, a podcast that features the stories of the people and companies helping to keep our communities connected, informed, and safe. When it comes to protecting people and keeping the peace, a well-informed officer is more likely to make better decisions on the field. At the same time, many hardworking police departments are facing a shortage of people in uniform. To help address that gap, the public safety agencies are increasingly turning to innovation and technology, including the Winston-Salem Police Department in North Carolina. Joining me now is Lieutenant Ben Jones. He's a longtime member of the force with nearly 25 years in uniform, specializing in intelligence and investigations. He also knows firsthand how public safety is undergoing an evolution, quickly changing how police departments operate and highlighting the critical need for collaboration with top experts. Thanks for being here, Ben.
Thank you for having me.
Also joining me is a familiar face here at Dejero, Rory McCabe. He's the Channel Sales Manager, Public Safety, which means a big part of his job is meeting with first responders like Lieutenant Jones to hear about the challenges they face in the field and how Dejero offers solutions that are resilient, reliable, and easy to use. Welcome, Rory.
Hey, good morning, Evie.
Well, let's get started. Ben, we touched on a little on some of the challenges facing police departments. What are some of the biggest hurdles for Winston-Salem?
Well, when you're talking about the real-time crime center and intelligence specifically, you've touched on the fact the hurdles for manpower. Yes, across the country, manpower is an issue, but the rise in crime, specifically gun crime, was the reason why we moved to the real-time crime center model and opened our center up to try to affect the gun violence that was happening in the city of Winston-Salem.
Mm-hmm. Rory, you meet with public safety agencies all the time. So, Lieutenant Jones rings true to you what he's saying. What are some of the other challenges you hear about?
Yeah, I think it runs the gambit. Coming from a former carrier side, the rule of the land is coverage is king, right? Everything else is important, but if I don't have service, I have absolutely nothing. And as we see a data-driven evolution, like Winston-Salem, like other organizations, it's the reliance upon that. The intelligence that provides you is absolutely critical for them to be able to do their jobs. And frankly, having to think about that in the foreground is is really frustrating. For their side, they have so many more other things that they're being tasked with. Society's putting upon our first responders, and being technical experts on top of everything else they do is pushing a lot more pressure on. So we like to come in and be a part of that conversation and see what we can do to help alleviate those challenges.
Yeah. Well, Ben, to help bridge the gap of not enough officers in the field, and of course, a whole bunch of other potential challenges, you turned to technology. And in 2021, you built a real-time crime center where you have behind you right now. Tell us about that, because I know it's been quite a journey, and you have even expanded a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so we began in January of 2021 in a very small place. We realized there was a need to tap in to technology that was out there to help us, become more of intelligence-led policing, which is kind of the model we're going to a lot of police departments across the country. The more intelligence, like you said earlier, a better informed officer is going to make better decisions. So we moved up to this space that you see behind me about 2 years ago, and it is a big upgrade. We hired a lot of investigative analysts to work and operate our technologies along with some sworn officers. And, figuring out ways to tap into the cutting edge technology out there and what we needed in Winston-Salem was a big part of what I had to do day to day when moving up here. And like Rory said, things that I don't need to worry about is, connectivity. I need to worry about what technologies I need. I need the connectivity to be there. And, what we want is be able to have actionable intelligence for our officers to work in real time, and also help with investigations. You, One of the things I say is, we want to be more precision policing now than ever before. And the technologies that are out there allows us to be more precise in what we do. For instance, in the past, if we had a robbery and the information we got from a witness may be a black Honda Accord that we're looking for, as officers are responding to the scene, officers are probably stopping about every black Honda Accord they see. Now with the technology, we're able to have the tag information, more details about the car, and we're being more precise about what we do. And that's kind of the model we want to be, and what we've done here in Winston-Salem. And the connectivity things that you talked about earlier, that's big for me. That's we can't bring this technology in without the connectivity.
Well, real-time crime centers have been around in places like New York and Atlanta for some years. Another solution, though, Ben, that you've worked on is 2 high-tech trailers. At first, the signal wasn't so great, but that's when you learned about Dejero. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we do have some blind spots, and as we've expanded our system throughout the city, there are areas that we're not able to reach with a hardline infrastructure, and are areas that we have major events at. We did bring in Compass Security Solutions trailer with cameras on them in, I think it was May of last year. It was a bike race. There was a lot of people there, and we had some connectivity issues. Once we had a lot of people in there, we weren't really getting the type of reception we needed to do the things we need to do, or see the things we needed to be able to see in real time. Up until this year in August, he brought another trailer back, and he brought Rory with him. And we said, okay, what can we do? How can we solve this problem? And Rory spent the day up here going around and talking about Dejero and the solution that it offered. And it was, in the trailer. And at the time, I'll be honest, I wasn't optimistic that we were going to have a great camera view, because the history, not with Dejero, but just with connectivity when you have a lot of people around. But Rory, he assured me, oh, this is going to work great. And we pulled the trailer in, and it sat there for, I think, 7 or 8 days. We were streaming video off the trailer, and it was magnificent. It looked like fiber the entire time, and I couldn't have been happier with the outcome.
Rory, take us back to that meeting with Winston-Salem Police Department and your initial impressions of the challenges they faced.
I got a call from Compass Security Solutions about a communications exercise they had previously done with Ben that had 65,000 people attend. The backhaul solution chosen during that event did not work according to the needs of Winston-Salem Police or Compass Security Solutions. In the next event they had coming up, they were expecting up to 70,000 people, which is why Compass had reached out to us to adjust the backhaul solution to support their need for the situation. Right. So an area of concern, and a lot of towns, a lot of communities in the United States face this, where either their older districts or their newer builds, infrastructure hasn't caught up, right? It's really expensive to drop fiber in the ground, or it's time consuming, or frankly, it might not be the right solution based upon what they're trying to do, and a nimbleness. So what Winston-Salem here was looking to be able to be flexible based upon the events and things that they had programmed, put in place that would require them to scale, right? And as Ben mentioned before, right, the labor challenges that public safety faces means a high reliance upon technology to augment what the officers can do. And when we came in and started having our initial conversations, it was, well, great. Well, we have some existing cameras. We have some different things in there, but they're really not quite hitting the mark towards what Winston needs to do for major events. And when we drove and looked at the area, we evaluate all of the different carrier services, and all the carriers do their diligence, right? They do everything they can. But when you have a lot of concrete, a lot of brick, a lot of glass, a lot of fun things in there. You're building these synthetic mountains in place, and the behaviors of each of them may not be adequate for high bandwidth required applications like a camera into a real-time crime center. So Dejero's capability of taking the good, the bad, the ugly of each carrier performance and aggregating that into one IP is what stabilizes and smooths out that connection. So Ben's statement of, and we love hearing it, right? This is as close to fiber as I could ever experience. And frankly, I like when I don't have to eat my words, right? So I think one of the statements was a colleague of mine and a former deputy at San Diego County Sheriff's Department said, trust but verify, right? I can tell you all the best things in the world, but I prefer you to see it and experience it for yourself rather than just believe me at my word.
Mm-hmm. And prior to Dejero working with you and the police department, Ben, had you ever heard of Dejero's smart blending technology, what it does, what it's all about?
No, I had not heard anything about the Dejero. And being in this sector, you hear a lot of different things, and there's a lot of things here, a lot of promises. They're not often, or sometimes they're not fulfilled the way people say they're going to work. And when Rory came and he explained it to me, and I'm not going to pretend like I know all the integral workings of Dejero, because Rory's very technical and very good at what he does, but he explained it to me in a way that I could understand. The ability to get out a signal with all those people around, especially in the location, like you said, the synthetic mountains. I think you used it's the buildings. It's hard for any carrier to get a signal, or especially we're pulling 3 cameras in color PTZ cameras that really never lost connectivity and had a crystal clear picture. So frankly, I was impressed, and I'm surprised I'd never heard of Dejero up until that point in time.
Mm-hmm. Well, we believe that one connection is never enough. Rory, can you kind of explain to those who haven't heard about it what exactly smart blending technology does?
Certainly. Kind of like Ben had mentioned, so every carrier is going to perform different based upon its geography, based upon its infrastructure. And we've just seen real time evidence of these challenges recently with the hurricanes that hit the southeast. Winston-Salem was a beacon, a refuge for a lot of those folks getting out of the harm's way. But you can see upwards. I think we saw some carriers in certain areas at upwards of 75% infrastructure damage. Right. So when we say it's not just about the aggregation, that higher bandwidth, the increased throughput, it's about how many legs that are on your stool that allow you to keep your connectivity going. Right. So if I have certain damage or compromised infrastructure on one carrier, but I also have other carrier elements, or I have disaster recovery assets come in, their portable towers, my ability to float within that infrastructure and not having to think about what is performing, what isn't performing, or my pretty consistent adage of kicking out legs of the stool, right? So imagine you have a multi-leg stool. And if anyone's if you ever try to take a stool, break off 2 legs and sit on it, it tends to not go very well with most people, right? So providing that resiliency, providing and taking, even sometimes when that one leg might be brittle, might be looking a little fragmented, and you would think there is no way that can help me. Dejero's unique way that it passes data at the packet level across each carrier, each network solution, is really what it helps to stand up those. So we can have a 3-legged stool, and we can have challenges with each leg of that stool, right? It's brittle, it's high jitter, it's got a low RSSI, it's got all of these things that in most traditional technology would mean we're not communicating in or out. But Dejero's ability to wrap that together and make that a solid foundation, right? Taking those 3 legs, combining at the top with Dejero at the top of the stool, means that communication can be stabilized and it can be functional. And folks like Ben and Winston-Salem Police, who absolutely need to have visualization of their crowds to ensure that everyone's kept in a peaceful and safe perspective, that's what we pride ourselves on doing. It doesn't have to be a positive environment. It doesn't have to be a great environment. Hell, it can be a little bit ugly sometimes. And Dejero's ability to come in and make those connections perform the way that the carriers want them to, right? It's really about that combined effort of how we can help create everyone's network to be a more stable solution. And that's where smart blending comes in. It's that combination and that unique way that we transmit data.
Yeah, it's certainly a game changer, especially when you consider, how you can enhance situational awareness with big public events, Black History Month or concerts or political events. Ben, take us through how police officers, though, are also using this technology to tackle crime. I know you've talked about everything from missing person cases to homicide investigations. Share with us a little bit of that.
So, we use it daily here in the Winston-Salem Police Department Real-Time Crime Center. The technology that we bring in has to be brought in, through some type of network. Fortunately for us, a lot of the stuff we have bringing in is on a fiber network. So, we are solving shootings and robberies within the real-time crime center within 15 or 20 minutes using this technology. It's just not the technology; it's the people you have in the room that understand and that can use the technology. Uh, for instance, just last week we had a robbery take place with a stolen vehicle that had the wrong tag on it that was switched with another vehicle that was involved in the robbery that they had to switch tags. We were able to use the technology we have in this room to, find those tags, piece together what happened using analytics, and solve that, or at least give the investigators, what they needed for them to help solve it. So every day we're using analytics and other types of technologies that's got to be brought into this room. I could go on for days in just the last 6 weeks of just the different things that we've affected. Daily throughout this department, we affect almost every operation some way now. And that it's not a thing that comes overnight for a real-time crime center. It takes some time to get the officer buy-in. They got to see that it works, right? And once they see that it works and it helps them solve their cases or helps us find missing people, which is a big component. You hear people talk about real-time crime center. Yes, that is a name, but we have worked in over 100 missing person cases this year and have affected them in some shape or form right here in the real-time crime center. It doesn't work without connectivity. And I think for me, Dejero opens that door up where I didn't have that option before, because I just cannot count on the regular connection or network connection that was being used to give me the streaming video that I need. Because we do a lot of streaming video. It's just not a picture of a vehicle and a picture of the tag. We have got to thought outside the box on how we deploy our license plate readers versus the traditional way of just having a picture of the vehicle, picture of tag. We're actually streaming video with it that gives us identifiers on the car for more than just the tag, and that is helping solve crime. For instance, we had a homicide that happened and we had the tag on the vehicle. We tracked the vehicle across the city, but oftentimes that vehicle was not hitting our tag reader. But the analytics from the camera we were able to see that one of the headlights was dimmer than the other. So every time it crossed, we knew we were still on the same vehicle. So analytics are a big thing, and we got to bring those analytics in.
Of course. So, when you consider communities are growing really across North America, that means departments are also going to grow. So how do you think technology is going to play a role with, this type of expansion?
Well, I think technology is the next evolution in police work. We're just started a drone as a first responder program here that gives you a 2 mile radius, as the crow flies, to fly that drone and get to a incident within 90 seconds of the call. They're going to beat most officers to the call, and now we're going to be providing real-time information to those officers, but, on that intelligence led policing model that we want. The more intelligence we put out there, I believe the future with technology in police work is going to be the cornerstone of what police departments utilize to help solve crime.
Well, let's finish off with a question for the both of you, and maybe I'll start with you first, Rory. And the question is this: what does success look like for you when we're talking about connectivity, public safety, keeping communities, people, and property safe? Rory.
Sure. So, in our world, it's really providing you the connectivity, right? The coverage that you need. And in different application usage, it's the bandwidth as well, right? So sometimes it's as trivial as I just need to be able to make and receive a call, a text message, something over Wi-Fi. I need to be able to pull up my records management system or have my CAD, my computer to dispatch there in real time, right? Other times it's a little more robust. I need to have that body cam, that dash cam. I need to have that license plate reader updating with the most current reflected database instance of challenges like Ben was talking about before, of these unique nuances of they're swapping tags or doing different things. Amber alerts that we all see, how fast that information gets to you allows for, and I think Ben, you probably said this, forgive me if I misquote you here, but it's taking instinct and augmenting with additional intelligence, right? So someone who spent as much time on the force, you get a read for people, you get a read for situations. However, we're all fallible. We all have our challenges. And the more information we can get access to, the more intelligence of position we can take, the better our responses. It's mitigating those situations from becoming bad to worse, or it's negating a situation that, like you had mentioned, how many black Hondas are out there that are doing that. And we're trying to do, everyone wants to keep people safe. So what you do is you cast a wide net and we will pull over every one of them to see if that's the one of challenge. However, if you can be more precise within that, we impact the public less. Their experience is better and more improved because they know that their peace officers are working in an extremely precise fashion. And what you're doing just speaks to all of that. And that's what we like to see. So in Dejero's world, it's coverage, it's throughput, but taking things that you're doing on the cutting edge of technology. If I have the connectivity, how much more creative can I get with that? Hey, this is a unique solution we haven't considered. Drone as a first responder, whatever that might be, an AI-based LPR, it could be a run the gambit. But if I have the connection, all of the other ancillaries, all of the other things that would make my intelligence crime center function even better, that's what we're about, right? We're about that collaboration between take the communications off the table and focus on the new ancillaries that are providing the real-time updates that you need to do your jobs better and more effectively to the benefit of all of us.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the most important part is that it's the customers, like Winston-Salem and other police departments that are really actually driving the innovation. They're showing us what can be done, and then technology companies then have to either, do modifications or create new solutions that can support what they're trying to achieve. Ben, what's success look like for you?
Oh man, that's a tough question, and you're spot on, Ivy. As far as the technology companies, they are, and they're reaching out often to say, "Hey, how can we make this better? What can we do to be in real time?" And Roy, that was a good explanation, on how that all comes together. Success for me is continuing to affect crime, help with solvability. There's always going to be crime. We need to be able to solve that crime. Keep exploring new technologies and evolving with the technologies, because police departments, uh, you know, in the past were usually behind on technology. Real time crime centers has helped police departments push to the edge of technology now, where it is and where it's happening at. And technology companies, like you said, are trying to figure out, how do we fit in. And you can't say it enough. Connectivity is a big portion of that. Whether it's, and I didn't hit on the data like Roy did. There is data and information that has to be exchanged sometimes, to provide the intelligence that's needed out there. So, success is, I want to keep expanding on what we're doing here. I want us to get better at it. And at the end of the day, I want to keep the community of Winston-Salem safe, keep our officers safe. That's the goal. And I think if we keep doing the things we do, and companies like yours keep providing the infrastructure to make that happen, the sky's the limit.
Well, thank you so much to both of you, Ben and Rory, for joining me for this fascinating conversation.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much for having us.
To learn more about Dejero's mission critical solutions for public safety or to book a demo, head to dejero.com.